Hello everyone, this is Phoenix Grand View. On July 7, 1937, the Marco Polo Bridge incident erupted. At this critical moment for the Chinese nation, far in the southwest, Long Yun did not remain idle in Yunnan. With a profound sense of national duty, he bravely took command, leading Yunnan's troops thousands of miles to defend the country, shedding blood to crush traitors at home, and inscribing a chapter in China's wartime history worthy of both song and tears. In the spring of 1938, at the Jiangsu-Shandong border, Yunnan troops under Long Yun confronted the invading Japanese army at Yuwang Mountain. There, the soldiers of Yunnan dyed the waters of the Grand Canal with their blood, demonstrating unparalleled courage and sacrifice. April 28, 1938. The harsh roar of guns tore through the early spring earth, and under the cover of aircraft, heavy artillery and tanks, the Japanese invaders launched a frenzied assault on the 60th Army of the Yunnan Army, which was holding Yuwang Mountain. The Wangshan defense battle began in earnest, a brutal clash of blood, flame, and the raw power of combat. The height of our hill was 126 meters, yet after 27 days of fighting, it had fallen to 124.6 meters, and the entire summit had been shaved down by 1.4 meters. Can you imagine how brutal this was? Yuwang Mountain sits in the eastern part of Jiangsu's Suzhou, at the boundary of Shandong and Jiangsu, to the north of Taizhuang, the western canal segment of the Grand Canal. Although its elevation is only a little over 126 meters, it is the only high point in the surrounding area, and its strategic position was extraordinarily important. My father, serving in the 1844 unit as part of the General Reserve, realized that in the western outskirts of this district, the only defensible place was a single ring road, so at the time it seemed that through Luhan, he urged Chiang Kai-shek to base any advance on the foundation of perfection as the starting point. On July 7, 1937, the July incident broke out. Long Yun immediately telegraphed Chiang Kai-shek, graciously stating that the situation had come to this. It would take the entire nation's effort to wage a long-term anti-Japanese war, and there was no way to save us from ruin. At that time, did he telegram me on behalf of Chiang Kai-shek's Kuomintang government? Preparations had been completed, and when the time came, if necessary, I would personally lead the troops to the front line. This stance was unwaveringly clear. In early August 1937, after a series of twists and negotiations, Long Yun travelled from Kunming to Nanjing to participate in the National Defence Conference, where he and the military political chiefs of the provinces jointly discussed a grand strategy to resist the Japanese threat. During the conference, Long Yun publicly declared that Yunnan's manpower, material, and financial resources would be devoted entirely to the nation, that every sacrifice would be made, and that the struggle would be carried through to the end to preserve the regime. He also urged Chiang Kai-shek to prioritize construction of the Yunnan-Burma Road and to organize anti-Japanese forces. Chiang Kai-shek approved the proposal, pledging the Yunnan army to the front, an outcome that greatly pleased him. On August 22, 1937, the Nanjing National Defense Conference concluded. Long Yun returned to Kunming and was immediately tasked with forming anti-Japanese units. In just 28 days, a disciplined, iron-willed force was assembled. The later famous National Revolutionary Army, 60th Army, with Lu Han as its first commander, and the 82nd, 83rd, and 84th Divisions under him, commanded respectively by Ampu, Gao Yinghuai, and Zhang Chong. All four were renowned for their boldness and aggressive skill, celebrated as outstanding generals from Yunnan's interior. On October 10, 1937, Double 10 Day, the 6 armies in Kunming held a solemn expedition and oath ceremony. Long Yun and all officers stood with resolute, ironclad bearing, united in unwavering purpose against the enemy. At once the entire army heads for Wuhan, the capital city of Hubei province. The spearhead clearly points straight at the front line of the war of resistance against Japan. During this time, the renowned composer Xian Xinghai and the poet An Yi joined forces to compose a battlefield march for the 60th Army. Among China's anti-Japanese forces, indeed, truly, there is a military pigeon, and this particular pigeon was exceptionally loud, and indeed during combat it served to provide a morale-boosting effect during the heat of battle. I fear that the 164th Army stands as the sole unit. At this moment in history, large swaths of Chinese territory had already fallen. and after the fall of Nanjing, a heavy mood of despair hung over the nation. To rally the people in resistance and uphold national dignity, Chiang Kai-shek ordered the 60th Army to assemble in Wuhan in full dress, fully equipped, and stage an impressive, commanding military parade. The marching songs of the 6th Army rang out, their bold cadence echoing through Wuhan's 3 urban districts. In the bustling streets of Hankou, one elder citizen remarked that the people still held hope for China. "Just look at the army's display. It is truly commendable," he said. On April 15, 1938, after a month-long campaign at Taizhuang, Chinese troops fought with extraordinary courage, shedding blood for their country, and inflicted a crushing blow on the Japanese elite corps, annihilating over 20,000 enemy troops. A few days later, unwilling to accept defeat, the Japanese pressed forward and attacked Suzhou at a critical moment. Li Zongren, commander of the 5th Theatre, abruptly recalled the 6th Army stationed at Wuhan. 7 days later, the 60th Army was deployed to the Sulu front. At Chenhuafang, the vanguard of the 83rd Division, led by Yin Guohua, fought to the last man against overwhelming forces, suffering more than 500 casualties. On April 27, 1938, the 84th Division under Jiang Chong recaptured Taizhuang, halting the Japanese advance after fierce and brutal combat. The battlefield was devastated. Fallen soldiers were used as cover, and only a single tree, the hero tree, remained standing amid the ruins. The 60th Army suffered over 10,000 casualties, and Long Yun later praised their sacrifice in telegrams to Lu Han. The victory at Taizhuang brought lasting renown to Long Yun and the 60th Army, with reports of Chinese bravery reaching Tokyo. On August 21, 1938, Jude commended Yunnan's remarkable progress under Long Yun's leadership. During the War of Resistance, United Front provinces contributed roughly 200,000 troops to the front. The Taizhuang blockade pinned down elite Japanese forces for more than 20 days, enabling a nationalist withdrawal from Suzhou and buying critical time for the Wuhan campaign. Today, the heroic tomb near Taizhuang in Jiangsu commemorates the fallen soldiers of Yunnan. After the war, Long Yun expanded the 60th Army into the 30th Army Group, later the 1st Group Army, which grew to over 400,000 troops and fought in major campaigns across China, largely self-equipped. Just 4 months after Taizhuang, officers of the 60th Army marked the completion of the Yunnan-Burma Road, a vital lifeline to Burma. at the very starting point of Kunda County, in Kunming City, Yunnan Province, the Burma Road 0-kilometre monument stands quietly and upright. The shadows of the trees sway gently, casting a sparse, faint light across the vast decade, silently telling the tale of those indomitable, fiery years of war. In August 1937, at the Nanjing Defence Conference, Long Yun attended and proposed building the Yunnan-Burma Road, opening a direct international route to the Indian Ocean, a plan Chiang Kai-shek praised highly. During the August session of that Nanjing Defence Conference, Long Yun, in the interval, undertook repairs, and a storefront bronze statue stood nearby. Thus, this Indian Ocean passage as an outlet to the sea was seen as a problem at the time. Very soon, the evolving war situation confirmed Long Yun's strategic foresight. On October 21, 1938, the Japanese army captured the last export port along Guangzhou's southeast coast. This clearly meant that China's sea lifeline of foreign aid had been cut off, and the construction of the Yunnan-Burma Road had become an unavoidable necessity. These developments underscored inland routes and diversified supply lines in wartime planning. The Sino-Burma Highway route was determined to start in the east from Kunming, passing through Dali, Baoshan, and Longling. Then from Wanting, it would exit China and connect with Burma at Naksu. The total length is 959.4 kilometres, and construction was planned to begin in December 1937. After the farmers returned to Yunnan, the Nanjing government immediately dispatched the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Communications to Yunnan to conduct an inspection. By October 1937, the highways survey formally began, and it was noted that both Yunnan and the central government would each provide half of the funding. Yunnan itself took charge and organised the road's construction, but the Dian-Burma Highway, along its long and arduous route, wound through towering mountains and vast rivers without end, with sheer precipices looming everywhere. The entire project would have to span the New River and 5 other major rivers, and to cross Gaoligong Mountain and 6 other high peaks, an engineering task of extraordinary scale. To ensure the Yunnan Side Road would be ready for traffic on schedule, every county along the Yunnan Side route was mobilised, and the total daily number of workers deployed reached about 140,000. At that time, British and American highway experts had predicted that the Dian-Burma Road would require at least 3 years before it could be open to traffic. Yet, under Long Yun's leadership, the people of Yunnan from all its ethnic groups managed to complete this mining city project in less than a year. To accomplish these great works, you could not do so without a strong and capable labour force. But the issue was not coercion. The old residents of Yunnan did not support him because they were forced to, nor was it coercion that moved them. It was everyone's willing, wholehearted support. Why is that? In December 1937, the Yunnan-Burma Road project began as a matter of national righteousness and prestige. Under the Yunnan provincial government's mobilisation, labourers from many ethnic groups joined in, with peak daily workers reaching 200,000. This great army of road builders formed from Han, Yi, Bai, Miao, Jingpo, Achang, Blang, Lisu, and other ethnic groups, including old people, women, and children. He was the chief administrator and would not let things remain unsettled. For 18 years in Yunnan, all people, regardless of ethnicity, held him in esteem. Yunnan suffered extreme material shortages with almost no large road building machines. Civilians and labourers risked their lives, hauling stones weighing over 3 tons to lay the road, acting as makeshift road rollers in deep mountain gorges. Many died during construction. They relied only on primitive tools, hammers, drills, shovels, hoes, wielded by hand to break and build the road. Today, within Longling County, Baoshan City, Yunnan, the Yunnan-Burma Road is still in use near the western bank of the New River, at Lao Huizui, Tiger's Mouth. The traces of road cutting with hammer and chisel are still faintly preserved. Longling County Magistrate Wang Shiguang pressed to speed repairs. The pace blinded one of his eyes. To motivate district heads to complete work on time, he sent a box containing handcuffs with a chicken feather affixed to signify that if you did not finish the task, you would meet in handcuffs. He also carried a special box brought by Long Yun. Wang Shiguang swore that if the road did not open by the deadline, he and his subordinates would jump into the raging river. Because of day and night toil, Wang Shiguang's left eye went blind, and his 2 secretaries sacrificed themselves, dying at their posts, forever lying in the thousands of mountains and ravines. After the early blasting of rock, the road-building masses moved like ants, placing stone and earth one cupful after another to pave a road more than 1,000 li long, a lifeline for the resistance. The Yunnan-Burma Highway, stretching over 500 kilometers through mountains, ravines, and rivers, was an incredibly difficult engineering feat. On average, 6 workers per kilometer lost their lives, making the cost heavy. Moved by this sacrifice, the blind Wang Shiguang wrote the Yunnan-Burma Highway Memorial Song. The highway's construction was critical to the war effort, offering a vital lifeline for transport and supplies, and strengthening China's resolve. By late August 1938, the highway was completed in just over 9 months. The Times of London hailed it as a miraculous achievement, noting that only the Chinese could have built it so quickly. The road became China's crucial link in the fight against Japanese invaders. In June 1940, after France fell to Germany, Japan turned its attention to French-controlled Vietnam, threatening Yunnan. On September 10, 1940, Long Yun ordered the destruction of key bridges on the Yunnan-Vietnam Railway to halt any Japanese advance. Over 100 kilometers of rail were dismantled, with local villagers tasked with destroying rails and keeping small items like nails and screws as evidence of their resistance. Since June 1940, after France's surrender, Japan had begun fortifying Vietnam and pressured the French to sever the Yunnan-Vietnam Railway, China's vital war supply route. Completed in 1910, this 854-kilometer railway linked Kunming to Vietnam's southern coast, crossing major rivers. With the Japanese cutting the railway, Yunnan was increasingly vulnerable to attack, and the region stood at the forefront of Japan's next offensive. On this point, he could see it very clearly. Sure enough, as Long Yun had anticipated, on September 22, 1940, more than 30,000 Japanese troops of the Imperial Army's 5th Division were divided into 3 routes and suddenly crossed the Sino-Vietnamese border from Guangxi, attacking Lang Son, a major northern town in Vietnam. The French colonial authorities could not hold out. 3 days later, Lang Son fell, and the Japanese opened the gates to Hanoi. Thereafter, the Japanese army deployed heavy forces in northern Guangdong, their eyes fixed, pressing straight towards southern Yunnan, with the aim of taking Kunming. Long Yun quickly realized the severity of the situation as news arrived that the Japanese could soon invade southern Yunnan through the China-Vietnam border. If southern Yunnan fell, Kunming would be vulnerable. In one night, Yunnan went from a rear area to the front line. However, Long Yun had only 7 divisions stationed in Yunnan and urgently appealed to Chiang Kai-shek multiple times, requesting the return of the 60th Army to defend the region. Despite receiving the telegrams, Chiang needed more time to assess the situation before making any troop movements. Yunnan, a multi-ethnic province with over 20 groups, had long been a place of diverse cultures. Long Yun, committed to ethnic unity, sought to abolish discriminatory terms and advocated for a united Chinese nation. From late 1934 to early 1935, he surveyed the region's minority groups and petitioned the Nanjing national government to stop using discriminatory language. When the 60th Army was not reassigned, Long Yun focused on organizing civilian militias across southern Yunnan. The provincial government set up militia organizations in over 100 counties, with 13 bureaus formed. With Long Yun's support, Bai Rixin, a strong local leader from the Mangnong Tusi, returned home and formed an anti-Japanese guerrilla force along the Yunnan-Vietnam border, where he was appointed commander of the 1st Detachment. Your words suggested that I should see my father less. They gave my father a number, and they gave my father weapons. Not long after, Chiang Kai-shek finally realized the strategic importance of defending southern Yunnan. He approved the 60th Army's 182nd and 184th Divisions to return to Yunnan, and immediately set up the Military Committee's Station Staff Group in Yunnan, and ordered the Nationalist Government's Military Affairs Department to draft a detailed defense plan for southern Yunnan. At the same time, the 9th Group Army from the Guanling Campaign was withdrawn to assist Luhan's Yunnan Army, the 1st Group Army, in defending southern Yunnan. Up to this point, the Chinese army and the civilian armed forces stood shoulder to shoulder against the common enemy. On the northern bank of the Red River, they laid defences layer upon layer, forming a long, deep fortress over 300 kilometres long. And in southern Yunnan, they erected a formidable wall of defence consisting of 100,000 civilians and 100,000 soldiers. Under the steadfast leadership of the nationwide United Front, they together forged an impregnable copper and iron wall, thereby decisively blocking the invading Japanese forces from crossing our borders for 5 long, arduous years. During the entire War of Resistance, the only sustained resistance occurred in southern Yunnan. For every inch of land, though the Japanese forces in northern Guangdong kept a watchful eye and glared with hostile intent, they never dared take a single step across the borderline. In the end, they were forced to abandon the plan to attack Kunming from southern Yunnan. This is the famous Southern Yunnan Defense War. The Battle of Southern Yunnan once again truly demonstrated Long Yun's determination to resist to the end and save the nation from peril. It truly laid to rest the enduring rumour that Long Yun had supported Wang Jingwei to lead the anti-Chiang cause. Throughout the War of Resistance, Long Yun led Yunnan, a border province, in ensuring the lifelines of international supply and the security of the rear areas, paying dearly in blood and sacrifice. So in the days to come, how will Long Yun continue to write his own tale, and what tests lie ahead now? Everyone please tomorrow keep watching Wu Meng's proud son Long Yun, Ep 4 Defending Rear. Next up, we'll bring you the China Resources Phoenix Focus.